And as always, we start by you introducing yourself. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you very much for having me, Sasja. My name is Eva Brouwer and my company is called Podium, which would translate to take the stage, or more poetic, seize the days. And my main goal is to empower other entrepreneurs or in company. I do also a lot of programs, and I want to empower them to feel more secure on stage or online. The take the stage could be also metaphorically. You don't necessarily need a physical stage to express yourself. And the empowerment is not so much in overshouting yourself, but in trying to be honest and sharing your true stories.
Yeah, that's a part and part to show yourself. Visibility is one of those key things. That's really what your core work is all about, huh? Showing yourself.
And then visibility is something which you have the green-eyed monster today when you see everybody on social media looking successful and gorgeous, and maybe you start doubting yourself. How can I be more visibly successful? But it's not necessarily that, in that sense, like being the powerhouse version of yourself, but being more true to yourself and expressing that and having no shame or that you feel that you can trust yourself and your environment to be truly open to that.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you mentioned that, because as you know, with FuturaFemina, we stand for the future, the female future. So we focus a lot on the feminine side of leadership, and it exactly is that what you say, that you can truly be yourself with both your masculine side of things and your feminine side. And the feminine side is all about making that connection, and that connection can only be true if you really come from what you are, without all of those, outer layers, and really make that true link to another person.
Yeah. And having said that, I think both of us are quite colorful persons. And in my social media posts, I usually wear bright clothes, my hair is red, I wear bright lipstick. So in that sense, I am quite extroverted, but that doesn't mean I don't show another side of myself or that I can't make that connection. So it's not necessarily that you have to be pure and only dress yourself in beach-colored clothing. But there can be authenticity in several ways.
Yeah, the authenticity is also one of those parts which really, my slogan is, I can grow you and your business by getting back to your core, which is basically meaning getting to your authentic self, and from there out you can blossom to the world with whatever version that is. That doesn't mean to be grand. That can be small in your spot, however you want to do it. But as long as it's true to you, because I think it's very important that you do this way, because you get very much energized. If you're very close to what really makes you tick, as I always say, that's really something which gives you a boost, which gives you an energy. Things will happen in a certain way that totally is fitting to you. How do you see that?
They also call it follow the signs. That's what I thought of when you said that.
Yeah, true.
Okay, this is maybe a strange side note, but actually my motto or also my lucky symbol is a flamingo. And I once had a business coach, and she said, Eva, throw out the flamingo, it's too childish. And I said, really? No flamingo? No animals whatsoever, more professional, more clean. Okay. And I paid a lot for this business coach. So I thought, well, she's probably right then. No flamingo.
Probably.
But then I thought back to a photo shoot I once did in Spain. And I made a vision board before I did the photo shoot of the looks and the feel I wanted to have in that particular photo shoot. And on the Pinterest board I made, there was this huge picture of a mural with a big flamingo. And I obviously thought, well, I would never find that. I mean, it was more inspiration-wise. So I went to this interior design shop. I bought myself a huge metal flamingo, and I walked under my arm in Spain, in Malaga, under my arm across the street back to my home. And I looked sideways. I looked into a restaurant, and what did I see? A gigantic mural of a flamingo. And I was just so surprised. So here was me with the metal flamingo. I went inside. I was like, sorry, I have a photo shoot tomorrow. Could I use this space? And then this waiter came to me with also a flamingo bow tie. So it was just like, oh, and then now I'm thinking, like, who am I to discard this huge sign of the universe? I mean, if people remember me, and probably if you listen to this, you probably will remember the flamingo, and it stands for don't be an ostrich, be a flamingo, take your head out of the sand and stick out your neck. Yeah, stick out your colorful neck. And so even though, yes, it could be childish, and yes, if you enter like this really cheap stores, there's usually a big flamingo hanging outside, but I still feel like it's also part of me, and I should honor it more.
Exactly. You know, that this is such a beautiful example. It's really how you are in a different way than, let's say, the usual, and that actually makes you, yeah, so likable. I mean, if we all get into these little molds, which we are basically programmed by you know, society, how our typical upbringing is, what schools promote, and all of that. That part is so great that you promote that to get away from that and to be truly you, as you are super living yourself. You're leading by example, which is really great.
Thank you for this confirmation again, because sometimes and that's also maybe leadership. Sometimes you doubt yourself and think like, should it be more professional, or should it be, and you could want to go back in that mold of mainstream branding or whatever it is in that case. But yeah, to accept that, it's that it feels very safe to do it in the end. Once you have decided it, then it feels a safe place.
Yeah. And then making the link to you lead by example. What is the definition of leadership to you?
I thought about that, and I would say face the fear and do it anyway. And it's not discarding the fear of pretending it's not there. It's accepting it, which is of course difficult to do. And then moving with that fear in very small steps towards the direction you want to go. Does it fit in your book of leadership quotes? I don't know.
It is certainly for me. It's how you show your leadership. So it's more of how you express it. That you don't let your fears hide what is truly you. Exactly. I totally support that. I mean, I do also sometimes scary things. I mean, this whole leadership interview series is a first for me. So, but I felt like, you know, this is something we can do. This is something which is could be great information for people who listen to us. So why not do it and figure out what that is? So yeah, take that fear. In this case, a smaller fear. It's not like you know, I'm jumping over a bridge, but still, it's an exciting thing.
Yeah, but especially if you talk about visibility. And so I'm a presenter, I'm a motivational speaker, I'm a presentation coach, so I help other people overcome this fear. But if you're a professional speaker, then you still have to overcome this inner fear or tension of climbing that mountain again and again. And of course, the fear will diminish and you get used to something. But if there's a new thing, then yes, it will show its face again and you have to deal with it. So in that sense, you need personal leadership or leadership in general to to step on that stage again, even a virtual one. And once you do it, take control, be enthusiastic, go for it, and then the fear will go away. But you do have to take the small first step.
Yeah, you have to take that small step or that leap sometimes really to get there. But those are really super chances also to grow, because, you know, life provides you the challenges, at least that's my belief. So you can discover all of those layers inside of you, and it can trigger you to grow. Of course, it's always up to yourself what you do with it. But and especially those things which lie just outside of your comfort zone, those are the ones which, yeah, sometimes people say they create the magic, you know. Those are the parts where you really are able to become the truest you. So yeah, I think the message is don't be scared to do that, because we both have, you just mentioned it, we both have those moments, but we still do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's also true, for instance, for sports people, if they have to, you know, in a big race, they have to accomplish something, they are boiled up also with all of this. But it's sometimes also part of your adrenaline system, which also helps you to be focused and to really perform well as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that definitely goes for presenting and showing yourself. Then the adrenaline definitely will help you master it. But yeah, it's also people are still scared of showing themselves in that sense. So the sense of having to face those nerves is really not appealing to loads of people.
No.
But it's worth it. It's worth it. Again.
Yes, it is. Huh? Yeah. And do you have another example where you lead by example, for instance? Or...
Well, yeah, I do. I gave this in-company training recently at an accountant's firm. And obviously when I prepared myself for it, the specific question I was asked is that this organization was like a typically blue environment, which means very organized, not very creative. Yeah, I don't know, how would you call it? You have more experience in the field maybe than I. And then I was asked to be this like super creative force and to get them out of their shells a little bit and to increase their confidence in sharing more of their personal stories.
Yeah.
So when I arrived there, I wore this pink suit with leopard shoes. So I was like super bright. And then my training started, and usually I do this visualization exercise. And then I started having doubts, because I thought, well, this is such a professional company, and look at me, I'm like sort of a clown. So maybe I should skip it because it's not really suitable. And then I thought, this whole training is about being yourself and expressing yourself in the way you are. So, hey, Eva, let's go. And I explained this. The doubts I had in my head, I openly discussed it with them. So I have my doubts, but I still want to do this exercise with you. And we did it together. And in the end, after some initial giggles and like, this is really necessary, the group really calmed down. There was less stress. There was more space to share our stories together. So in the end, it was super helpful. So I was glad for two reasons, that I overstepped my own doubts again, and that I did it because it had results as well. So yeah.
It's a two-edged sword. It really gives you, you do one thing and you see, you know, the ripple effect that it increases from the basis of where you started, by showing also your personal experience, like we are doing now. We share our experiences so that somebody else can take that on and can see, that we're all human and we all make mistakes, that we're all in doubt, we all have fears.
Yeah, but you can imagine the situation when you're in a meeting and somebody's discussing something and you have no idea what it's about. and you're like, well, should I ask or will it make me look silly? And then usually if you do speak up, there'll be a few people very thankful because you did ask and they were too scared.
Yeah.
And the same goes for if I have I don't know, recently I had this goodie bag and I had some gemstones in it. And again, I had the same thing. Well, this is an ICT company, so maybe they're not really into gemstones, but hey. And then I thought, well, if there's only one person here who really gets a kick out of these gemstones, and it might be a trigger. So I also, again, I did the same trick. It wasn't really a trick, but I explained myself again. And I said, well, put it in your bag and maybe you will find it put it in your laptop bag and then you'll find it and it will be a reminder of, I can be whoever I am. I can share my stories. I don't have to polish them up to be really ICT. Nobody wants that. So so my question to the listener, to the viewer would be, what could be that personal touch you have, but you sometimes let overshadow, or you think, well, wouldn't that be silly? So try to recognize that feeling, and what in the next case that you encounter that feeling, what can you do about it? Can you take a little challenge with yourself and do speak up or do the activity you were a little bit ashamed about?
Yeah, it's indeed often also the case, like you just pointed out, that people are sometimes afraid, to voice out what they're thinking because they might look stupid or whatever that they think everybody else is thinking. But 90% of the room is typically, thinking the same things.
Yeah. But I do have proof of
even still, if you're the only person who even thought that, it's worthwhile asking the question. There are no stupid questions. You've always had the right to ask them, and therefore grow in your knowledge to understand the situation or whatever it is. So
it's really powerful, of course. Yeah, I worked in television for 10 years. I was a television anchor, and that's one of our mantras on the editing floor was, there are no silly questions. But I also had the experience that I indeed was the only one with that. So I was a host for this event, and it was about quantum physics. And like 15 minutes in, I asked the audience, do you have any idea what he's talking about? And the whole audience was, yes, we do. Okay, let's continue. So even if it looked silly, I mean, it was still funny. And I spoke up for the people maybe who lost track of it. So even if that happens, don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's I think it's always a great sign that somebody really wants to learn, and I think when there is a learning opportunity, there is an opportunity to grow, I think. So I have always very much respect for people who ask questions because they are really interested. And there are some people who fake it a lot. They sit there and they do like, I know it all. But if you then ask them a few questions, you'll be surprised what you find out.
But I think this is really interesting, Sasja, and I hope you spread that word more because, that you give confidence and empowerment to the people who want to ask those questions, and also to the leaders who might be impatient with them, but to see that as an opportunity to learning and growing, that's a whole different perspective.
You talk about leaders. My definition, those probably would be managers. So so that you can go to your manager indeed and ask that question if you have something which pops in your mind, and you just want to have a clarification or you want to know more about it, always do this. And you might be surprised because sometimes the guy who's in charge doesn't, or the female for that matter. Luckily, there are more and more females in different positions. That wasn't the way when I was in management. Usually I was the only female in the room. But luckily there are more now, and then you can figure out what's really going on. So I think also that part, that curiosity part, is one of those more feminine side of things, which I'm very glad that we are currently the opportunity to show that more, that the whole society is more open to it, and that we're all in this changing environment for this to be true.
Yeah, and if you want to make that into a practical exercise, so how to stimulate this connection, if you're listening, it's well, then I would ask, what do you think? If you're listening to this, what do you think it is? And it is asking questions. So that's why I asked one on purpose, because what happens, asking questions stimulates the brain and sort of creates instant activity. Like even if you were looking on your phone, you're like, oh, she asked a question, I have to do something, even if you don't really have to answer the question. And also continually try to, and that's something you do excellently, talk in examples. So you yourself have to go the extra mile in explaining yourself, and the other party can be more curious and ask questions and ask for clarification in the shape of examples. So really try to train yourself in this, in thinking this way, in thinking in examples and asking questions, because it will really help you to get more connection and clarity on the topic.
Yeah, super. And I love the way that you also made an exercise of it, so that people are really extra triggered who listen to this or see this, are triggered to think about that and how their usual actions are. Because, you know, sometimes we look at these interviews and we think, okay, very passively, you know, engage with it. And as soon as you engage with an active mind, indeed, so think about how what we are now discussing really relates to you, what you can learn from it, how you can actively, you know, change something tomorrow, perhaps. Those are the things which really trigger, and then you will remember it as well. Otherwise, it will be just one big bloop of a half an hour. And you will not know anymore in a couple of days what you heard or what you have seen. And so focus towards what you're doing really is one of those key things where you can, again, learn and grow. Because if that focus isn't there, it just flies over. You know, your brain has so much of information to digest the whole day that it will filter out these things. And then these more passive experiences, they get the back seat, and well, sometimes they never get the front seat again, and that would be a shame.
Yeah.
So perhaps in light of time, I always want to be very diligent in keeping within the 30 minutes time frame, so everybody has a chance to listen to these talks. What would be your closing, perhaps tip, perhaps a generic tip, perhaps a tip on leadership? What is the key thing, you know, if everything else what we discussed has been forgotten, what would be the thing to remember from this?
Well, I could tell you loads of things. For example, pak je podium, so feel the freedom to take your stage, and no matter what sense. But in this case, I would like to finish with find your flamingo. So what would be a symbol, and it doesn't have to be like such a silly, childish thing, like a flamingo, but what could symbolize what you stand for? Do you have a metaphor for the message you want to bring across? Because this metaphor can really help also the other party to understand where you come from, or what the impact is you want to make. So, and because it's really personal, it also will distinguish you from other people who maybe have the same message as you. So my question for you is, what is your flamingo? Go find it.
Oh, that's a beautiful one. Perhaps I can even share my example.
Oh yeah, I would love to hear it.
My example is a poppy flower.
Oh, really beautiful.
I have something with these colors. I love red, and I think a poppy is such a beautiful, fragile flower, but it grows within the weeds. So whatever circumstance, there is still a way of how that poppy shows up and really blossoms.
You know what my street is called, Sasja? Klaprozenweg.
Yeah.
My street is called Poppy Road.
Yeah. Wow. Great. I wasn't aware. So yeah, I always love those. I always love those when they grow, and yeah, those actually triggered me earlier this year to go online with my business. When I saw them, I was contemplating about my business, and everybody was online, and you know, that was an extra trigger for me to see that, coming back to one of our earlier discussions, to see that as a sign for me to take that road.
Cool.
Also, our logo is, let's say, an abstract factor of that poppy.
Yeah. So, and if you have, like, Sasja, a metaphor, like a poppy, for example, don't be shy to repeat it over and over what it means, because sometimes you think, well, I wrote that in a blog in 2018, so probably everybody knows. How can should I tell it again? Yes, you should. So don't be shy in repeating it and explaining you again and again what that stands for, because it's very visual, so people will remember. And there's a new audience waiting for you every day. So
yeah, true. Yeah, that's also a good reminder. Go on, repeat, because typically people will sink in information after the third, fourth, fifth, or even sixth, seven times. It's indeed very, very true. Well, thank you, Eva. This was a very inspirational talk. Thank you for your great examples. I will surely remember that big pinky. I have this totally visualized because I'm a visual person. And thank you for your time. And I hope our viewers or listeners, if we turn it into a podcast, will have this as a great guidance for them to take their personal leadership.
Yeah, and I have a present for them as well. If they want to continue with this, please take a look at my website, evabrouwer.tv/live-met-lef, which is in Dutch, but it's a free video course on how to live stream yourself with your camera, for example, with your smartphone. So this will also help you to be more visible and to share your message. So hope you...
Tip number 3, and I know it's a great one. I did it myself.
Great. Good to hear. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and see you soon, Eva. Bye-bye.
Bye.